Hello everyone! Today we will be looking at the Kurds west of the Euphrates until the end of the 10th century. In this video, the area we will be discussing goes all the way from the Taurus Mountains southwards into Sham. Note that there were many important Iranic individuals and groups that were active here throughout history. However, as always, I will mainly be discussing the accounts in which the Kurds are explicitly mentioned. Also note that some sources were already discussed in previous videos. I won't go into too much detail in all of these cases. Now let's commence. In the ancient period, there are some disputable cases. In the Roman author Livius, his mention of Kurti troops in the battles of Magnesia in western Anatolia and of Callinicus in Greece, an early western displacement can be inferred. Additionally, the 1st century Roman historian Pliny, when discussing Syria, sums up its peoples and mentions a group called the Cardutenses. Also, in Arabic manuscripts on the Acts of the Apostles, the Kurds were among the devout nations that were present at Jerusalem on the day of Pentecost. There were apparently Garshuni or Syriac character manuscripts with similar contents. In these cases, it appears that Kurds replaced the Parthians as mentioned in the New Testament. Another good possibility is the Tel Kurdi, in ancient times known as the Talat Kurdaya, a toponym that appears in Ghazani times, and it is found not far from Damascus, already mentioned in the year 568. It may have been an ancient Kurdish military colony. We advance into Islamic times. For the 7th century I could hardly find a source mentioning the Kurds west of the Euphrates. There was a case of the Sahabi Jaban al-Kurdi, his son, as well as a female companion called Sulzan, who went to Mecca to meet with the Prophet Muhammad, but that's more to the south than what we're looking for. Remarkably, in Kamit, present-day Lebanon, there is a quarry with an East Syriac inscription accompanied by a cross, dated to the Islamic year of 96, being the years 714 to 15 AD. In it is recorded that the works in this quarry were begun under the Caliph al-Walid by Jazrat Kurdu, of which Jack Ren excelled as carrier and overseer. Jazrat Kurdu in this case is probably the name of a group, no doubt hailing from the place Jazrat ibn Umar, aka Jazrat al-Akrat, the ancient Beth Kardawaye. This inscription mentions more people of what appears to have been a mixed group, though a Kurdish ethnicity of any of these is hard to ascertain, despite the group's name. In any case, later in this century there was of course also Marwan II, who had a Kurdish mother, something which we've seen plenty of times in previous videos. Early on he had been appointed governor of Armenia and was active in the Caucasus, but also west of the Euphrates at Homs, where he fought the Kharajites. His supposed descendants are also mentioned in a chapter of the Sharafnama. They were said to have fled to the Silvan or Mayafarikin region of Diyarbakir after their father's death, recruiting to their cause local tribes as well as those arriving from Sham and Egypt, and then succeeded in taking Silvan and its surroundings. Thus was established the long-lived Silimani or Silivani dynasty, which would survive until the 19th century. In the 8th century there was also the poet and musician Abu Suleiman Yunus bin Kurt bin Shariari Kurdi. His father had migrated to Medina, where Yunus was born and completed his education. He then became a clerk in the Divan of Medina. He studied with persons like Ibn Mahruz and Mabat. He then traveled to Sham, acquainted Walid ibn Yazid, and later, when the latter ascended the throne, he called Abu Suleiman back from Medina, and he stayed with Walid ibn Yazid until that caliph died in 744. Abu Suleiman is said to have had a beautiful voice, to have made innovations in music, and to have written books on musical instruments. He died in 752. First, in 830, there was a self-claimed Mahdi in Beth Kardawaye. He managed to recruit Kurds as well as other peoples, and to raid into the Jazira and Armenia. In Turabdin, he was beaten back by the Arab commander Hassan and fled into Armenian territory, where he was killed by the Armenian Prince Isaac. His followers enraged, they besieged Isaac's castle, but in the end were defeated, many of them slain, and others fled to the Byzantine Emperor Theophilus. Similarly, there were the Khorramites, an Iranic religious movement founded in the 8th century, which led mass rebellions in this time period. In 833, in the Jabal, covering places like Hamadan, Isfahan, Masabadan, and Mirajan-Qadak, a region by majority populated by Kurds, there was a rising by one Ali, son of Mazdak. When it was crushed by the commander Ishaq ibn Ibrahim, sent by the Caliph al-Mutasim, Thousands left for the Byzantine Empire, arriving in 834. Most prominent, however, was Babak's rebellion in Azerbaijan, spanning the years from 816 to 837. There were at least two Kurds involved here, Nasr Kurdanaye and Isma al-Kurdi. Nasr may have made his way to the Byzantine Empire quite some time before Babak's downfall, which would result in further migrations. Once arrived in the empire, the Kharamites were noted to be married off to the widows of fallen soldiers, and then were made into a military corps. Theophilus was said to have become emboldened by the stream of these Kurdanaye and Kharamites. The Kharamites are mentioned multiple times as troops of the Byzantine expeditions to western Armenia in the 830s, and though in these cases most of these Kharamites must have been Kurds, this is rarely specified in the sources. Nasr, though converted to Christianity, does appear as a leader of the Kharamites, and his followers, in some Syriac sources, are called Kurds or Kurdanaye. He was apparently active in the battle for Zubatra, aka Sozopetra, in 837, where the Byzantine forces, especially the Kharamites, committed atrocities in this barely defended city. This outraged the Caliph Mutasim, who would take back the city in 838, and thereafter the caliphal army would press on and attack Anzan, Ankara, and Amorium. It was at the Battle of Anzan, also called Dazimon, where the Byzantines suffered a major defeat, and Theophilus, abandoned by his army, was saved by Nasr and his Kharamite troops. Later on, Mutasim asked for Nasr, his son, and the guilty Kharamite forces to be turned over. Though Theophilus expressed guilt at the events of Sozopetra, he could not grant this request. After all, he owed his life to Nasr. Moreover, there was a short-lived rebellion of the Kharamite Theophobos at Sinope, often wrongly equated with Nasr, though he may have been his son, and as a result, most of the Kharamite forces appear to have become dispersed over the various themata. Probably in 839, Mutasim sent out his men again to make raids into Byzantine territory, and they took captives. Here, Nasr appears again and manages to deliver the captives, but further Arab reinforcements arrive. Nasr gets overtaken, overpowered, and beheaded. Nasr's Kurdanaye followers then descended from their horses, and, with a death wish, rushed towards their enemies and were all slain, their heads being sent off to their wives at Masisa, aka Mopsuestia, who evidently were all horrified. These Kharamites no doubt deserve closer attention in another video. Note that the historian Skylitzes in one manuscript also notes 10,000 Kurds in the army of Al-Mutasim, but this may be an error, since in the subsequent battle he notes Turkish archers instead, and Al-Mutasim was indeed mostly noted for his Turkic slave soldiers. We may further refer to the Sirat al-Hima, an Arab epic on the Arab-Byzantine wars, in which the legendary commander al-Batal plays an important role, and in which the Kurds show up multiple times. They seem particularly associated with Amit, aka Diyarbakir, and Erbil, but also make up part of the forces that were active west of the Euphrates, also joining in the civil wars between Amin and Mamun in the 9th century. For the year 878, the Greek historian Skylitzes and the continuator of Theophanes note that Emperor Basilius I and the Byzantine forces had secured several victories in the border areas, and at Caesarea many spoils and captives were gathered. Among these, there were many captive Kurds, which were all executed. We enter into the 10th century. A short reference can be found in the Tactica by the Byzantine Emperor Leo I, who was, of course, active in the border regions between the Arabs and the Byzantines, advising that an army be well stocked with bows and arrows to counter the Kurds and the Saracens, who themselves relied heavily on archery. Another relevant source discussed on this channel was Masudi. Masudi was among the first that gave systemic information on the Kurds, particularly those more to the north. Importantly, he mentions the Kurds as living in these areas in the general sense. In his main work, Meadows of Gold, he mentions the Kurdish Dababila tribe as living in Syria or Sham. This probably should be corrected to Domboli, a well-known tribe that indeed shows up in this century. The later chroniclers of the Domboli's history, who later on would rule over Khoy and even Tabriz, also asserted that the Domboli's ancestry lay in Sham, though there are multiple theories about their origins. Masudi in his Tanbi, or Book of Admonition, moreover adds that the Kurds also live in the frontier. The term used here must have been Tukur or Al-Awasim, referring to the border regions between the Arabs and the Byzantines. For the year 902, Tabari mentions that a commander named Ibn Banu, after having crushed his opposition at Al-Qatif in Arabia, had sent a dispatch to Baghdad indicating that he was sending troops to Sham to crush the unbelievers. The message was intended for one Jafar ibn Humayd al-Kurdi, in whose region the Byzantines had committed transgressions, seemingly in a region bordering that of Homs. These are the only passages that mention this Jafar as far as I know. We may note Jafar's father's name, Humayd or Hamid. During this era there was, after all, an important Kurdish tribe called Humaydi. For the year 905, Tabari mentions, a letter from Bassam al-Kurdi reached Baghdad. He was stationed in a fortress of his between Byzantine and Muslim territory and engaged in keeping the truce between the Muslims and the Byzantines. He mentioned that the Byzantine king had written to him, ordering him to rebuild the bridges over the Ceyhan and improve the road for him, for he planned to march on Tarsus. The ancient in Tarsus sent a message on to the central authorities. Unfortunately, once again we have no further information on this individual, but this brief description seems to imply that Bassam was quite important, him holding a fortress, apparently possessing the resources to make reparations, as well as his role of truce keeper. This is also an early example of a Kurdish leader functioning as a spy. The Ceyhan is a river, as well as the name of a town near Adana. In 927, one Ibn ad-Dahhak is mentioned. Interestingly, he was called Rais al-Akrat, meaning the commander or leader of the Kurds. This Ibn ad-Dahhak was based in the fortress of Jafari, close to Tarsus. Ibn ad-Dahhak converted from Islam to Christianity and joined the Emperor Romanus I Lakapenos, from whom he got gifts as well as the instructions to return to his fortress. However, he was besieged, taken prisoner and killed by Tamal ad-Dulafi. This happened somewhere between late 927 to early 928. His title, Rais al-Akrat, is a good illustration of the fact that when Kurds became local governors or leaders, these weren't isolated individuals, but they generally drew strength from their Kurdish tribal following. The name of this fortress might also draw one's attention. Perhaps this was the one Jafar ibn Humayd al-Kurdi held 2 decades earlier. In the year 939, when Emir Muhammad ibn Yazdat ash-Sharazuri became the wali or governor of Damascus for the Ishidi dynasty. He was then made chief of police of Egypt in 942, which he continued doing until his passing in the next year. I might add here that there were also other scholars in Egypt in this era, 2 from Dinawar and 1 from Kermanshah. In 947 or 8, the Hamdanid Saif al-Dawla besieged the fortress of Barzuya, perhaps an Iranic toponym, east of Latakia. This was held by Abu Talib al-Kurdi, in some sources called Abu al-Hajar al-Kurdi, who had resisted the Ikhshids. The strategic position of this town meant that he could exert power over the surrounding region as well. Saif ad-Dawla managed to capture the fortress, but the following year, the fort had fallen into the hands of Abu Talib's nephew, his sister's son, from whom it was similarly wrested by Saif ad-Dawla. Then there was also the Kurd Daysam, active in Azerbaijan and neighboring regions. After numerous struggles with the Daylamites, he had to flee to Mosul to the Hamdanid Nasr al-Dawla, but thereafter went on to that ruler's brother, Saif ad-Dawla of Aleppo. After residing there for some time, he left for Salmas in 955, aided by Saif ad-Dawla, and captured that town, establishing the Khutbah in the name of the Hamdanids. However, Daysam shortly thereafter was defeated by the Daylamite Marzuban. In 962, the Byzantines under Nikephoros Phokas battled the Hamdanids at Aleppo, led by the same Saif ad-Dawla. Simeon the Logothete describes Nikephoros' arrival at Aleppo. Then he set forth with all his forces to the very populous metropolis called Aleppo, brimming with wealth. Indeed, arriving at the aforementioned city, he found around it Shamdam drawn up against him, with a great multitude indeed of Arabs, Daylamites and Kurds, and the remaining people gathered from the countryside, with only the Aleppo infantry controlling the 2 forts of the river and preventing the Roman army from crossing. The Byzantine forces, however, with their cavalry, managed to break through via the upper forts, and managed to slay Saif ad-Dawla's forces, which fled the scene. It has to be remarked that this Hamdanid dynasty had many interactions with the Kurds in the Jazira and Mosul region as well, and the leaders of the Mosul branch intermarried with Kurdish women, the daughters of Kurdish tribal leaders, to solidify alliances. In 968-9, Antioch was ruled by a Kurd named Alush. He had been appointed by the elite of the Antiochians, who disliked the Hamdanids and had taken advantage of the absence of their representative, Taqi al-Din. Around this time, one Muhammad ibn Isa from Khorasan, who had passed Maya Ferkin with a large force, was well received by the inhabitants, as they strengthened the city. Sometime later, one al-Zuqayli came from Khorasan to attack the Greeks' territory, and he was similarly warmly welcomed by Alush. However, sometime later, this al-Zuqayli assassinated Alush, and the latter's men dispersed. In the year 974, according to al-Makrizi, one Emir Ebu Suraya al-Kurdi became the governor of Damascus under the Fatimids. Unfortunately, no other information on this individual is available to me. In 986, Bardas Skleros took Malatya. He was a scion of a noble family and had attempted to take the imperial crown in the late 970s, after losing his position as advisor of the emperor, but his forces were crushed and he had to flee to Baghdad. He made an agreement with the Daylamite Buyids ruling there, and in his march towards the Byzantine Empire, recruited Armenians and Arabs. When he then took Malatya, he sent a request for aid to Bat ibn Dostik, founder of the Kurdish Marwanid dynasty, who sent to him his nephew Abu Ali with a powerful force. The following year, Bardas Skleros then went on to make an alliance with Bardas Phokas, another rebel who, crazily enough, had earlier been the commander who had crushed Skleros. Even crazier, after making agreements as to who would get what if the rebellion were to succeed, Phokas had Skleros imprisoned, and here the very short alliance with Abu Ali must have fallen apart. Finally, in 998, there was the notable Battle of Apamea between the Byzantines and the Fatimids. The Byzantine forces were commanded by Damian Dalasenos, who was the Duke of Antioch, and had repeatedly raided into Sham. He then would besiege Apamea, not far from the town of Hama. They managed to kill 2,000 of the Muslim forces, which started to disperse. Then one lone Kurdish armor-clad knight, variously called by names of Barkifa and Abul Hajar, Ahmad ibn al-Dahak al-Salil, began riding towards Dalasenos. The latter believed the knight to be giving his surrender, but Abul Hajar suddenly lunged at him and managed to strike Dalasenos with his spear, thereby killing him. This changed the morale of the Muslim troops for the better, and they managed to secure a major victory. Though al-Dahak is not mentioned again, we may suppose he was related to Ibn al-Dahak, or the other Abul Hajar al-Kurdi. Additionally, though this shouldn't be any surprise, here we see an early account of a Kurdish knight bearing armor. To conclude, these accounts up until the 10th century do indicate that the Kurds had played a significant role west of the Euphrates, mostly as military units and commanders, at times as governors and as scholars, Christian, Muslim and Khoramites, inhabiting Sham and the frontiers, repeated in folklore and legends. However, all things considered, these accounts are rather sparsely spread throughout several centuries, and we do not receive much detailed information on settlements, customs and tribes. In contrast, in the following centuries, the Kurds' presence and power west of the Euphrates would reach unexpected heights, one day to be discussed on this channel. Thank you for watching.